The love story of Dwayne Anthony Barrett and Rochelle Annette Walker was born. They met in high school, two teenagers from working-class families trying to navigate the chaos of adolescence in a town that was equal parts postcard perfect and unforgiving. Dwayne was tall, broad-shouldered, a little rough around the edges. He wasn't the best student, but he could fix anything with his hands. Rochelle, on the other hand, was quiet, observant, and razor-sharp. She always had a stethoscope in her daydreams and a fire in her ambition. Where Dwayne was bold, Rochelle was graceful. Where he was impulsive, she was deliberate. Their romance began with shy glances in a chemistry lab and evolved into long evening walks down Gloucester Avenue. By the time they were in their early 20s, they were inseparable. But not without their cracks. Dwayne's temper, though rare, was explosive. Friends would later recall incidents where he'd lose control over minor arguments. Once shattering a beer bottle against a wall during a dispute at a bar. Another time punching a dent into his car door after a fight. Still, he never laid a hand on Rochelle, not then. He always came back with apologies, promises, and tears. And Rochelle, the ever-forgiving heart, always chose to believe him. They moved in together in 2021. Rochelle had just completed her nursing degree and landed a job at Cornwall Regional Hospital. Dwayne was working with a local construction firm, rapidly rising through the ranks due to his work ethic and knack for managing tough crews. Life seemed to be falling into place. In February 2024, Dwayne proposed to Rochelle during a weekend getaway in Negril. It was simple. A dinner on the beach, candles in the sand, and a ring tucked inside a conch shell. Rochelle said yes. Her smile that night, captured in a picture Dwayne later posted to Instagram, would become one of the last images circulated by media months later after everything unraveled. Their wedding was held 6 months later, a beachfront ceremony with about 75 guests. Rochelle wore a sleek, ivory dress with a subtle lace train. Dwayne wore a white suit with a champagne tie. The photographs told a story of love, laughter, and new beginnings. They danced under a canopy of string lights. Dwayne kissed her shoulder while they cut the cake. Rochelle's father gave a teary speech. There wasn't a single cloud in the sky. When it came time to choose a honeymoon destination, Rochelle wanted something memorable, different. While most of their friends flew to the US or took cruises, Rochelle picked Cuba, a place she had read about in nursing school for its revolutionary medical history, vibrant culture, and old-world charm. Dwayne wasn't excited at first. He would have preferred Cancun or even back to Negril. But Rochelle was insistent, saying, "Let's do something we'll never forget." In hindsight, those words would haunt every member of her family. They booked a 10-day honeymoon trip to Havana, scheduled for the last week of August. The tickets were purchased through a Jamaican travel agency that specialized in Caribbean getaways. Rochelle took care of most of the planning, airport transfers, hotel reservations, even a city tour package. She wanted the trip to be perfect. A week before departure, Rochelle posted on Facebook, "Married the man of my dreams. Now off to dance in the streets of Havana. Red heart, Cuba #WifeLife #honeymoon vibes." The comment section lit up with congratulations, heart emojis, and playful jealousy. No one, not her friends, not her family, and not even Rochelle herself, could have imagined that 10 days later, she would be coming home in a coffin. To those on the outside, they were a young, beautiful couple headed for paradise. But paradise has shadows. And behind the smiling selfies and travel hashtags, something dark was beginning to take root. To the untrained eye, Dwayne and Rochelle Barrett were a power couple in the making. But those who knew them best had seen the signs, subtle at first, then unmistakable. Dwayne was known for his charm. He had a deep, commanding voice and an easy confidence that made people listen. At social gatherings, he was the life of the party. But behind closed doors, especially in their shared apartment in Freeport, Rochelle's world was increasingly being shaped by his insecurities. It started small, asking her who she was texting, checking her Instagram DMs when she wasn't looking, calling her multiple times during her nursing shifts, just to hear her voice. Rochelle once laughed it off to her coworker at the hospital, saying, "He's just protective, not jealous." But the jokes faded when protection turned into possession. He didn't like when she wore lipstick to work. "Who you dressing up for? You work in a hospital, not a fashion show," he'd bark. He once deleted all her male contacts from her phone, claiming, "They only pretending to be friends. I know how men think." When she went to a bachelorette party for her friend in Ocho Rios, he showed up unannounced at the hotel lobby the next morning, demanding she come home. Still, Rochelle stayed. Her sister, Maya Walker, remembered one night in particular. It was just 2 months before the wedding. Rochelle had come over to her house after a big fight. She had no bruises, no signs of physical harm, but she was shaken. "He threw my phone across the room," Rochelle had whispered, "and said if I ever lie to him again, he'll make me regret it." Maya tried to talk her out of the marriage. "This isn't normal. He's already isolating you." But Rochelle was adamant. "He just loses his temper sometimes. He always apologizes. He said he's working on it. He even started going to therapy." Dwayne had, in fact, seen a counselor briefly, court-ordered anger management from a bar fight 2 years earlier, but he told Rochelle it was just stress from his job. The truth is, people saw things, but they didn't say enough. At their engagement party, a cousin of Rochelle's noticed a bruise on her wrist. Rochelle claimed she fell. In the bathroom, another friend remembered Rochelle joking, "I can't even follow cute guys on TikTok. Dwayne got eyes everywhere." The night before the wedding, Dwayne reportedly had a minor outburst when Rochelle didn't answer his call during her bridal spa session. One of the bridesmaids, Camille, later admitted, "He wasn't yelling, but you could tell he didn't trust her. It was like he thought someone was going to snatch her away if he blinked." And then there were the apologies. Dwayne always had the right words. He bought flowers. He cooked her favorite food. He quoted Bible verses about forgiveness. He'd send texts like, "You're my world, Rochelle. I get scared of losing you, that's all. No woman ever made me feel like you do." Rochelle, like many women in emotionally abusive relationships, mistook his desperation for depth. She believed his pain meant love. And every time she thought about leaving, she'd remember the good times, the time he showed up at her graduation with roses, or the time he took 2 jobs just to help her finish nursing school. Love made her see potential instead of patterns. And on August 23rd, when they boarded that flight to Havana, Rochelle wasn't thinking about the past. She was thinking about their future. There's a photo, taken at Norman Manley International Airport just before departure, that would later appear in news stories and on Jamaican social media. In it, Rochelle is smiling wide, sunglasses perched on her head, leaning into Dwayne's chest. He's holding the phone, taking the selfie, his other arm wrapped tightly around her waist. Behind them, the bright departure gate. In front of them, 10 days of paradise. But a closer look at the photo tells a darker story. Dwayne's grip around her waist is firm, almost possessive. Rochelle's smile is wide, but her eyes don't match. A slight hesitation, visible only if you're truly looking, rests behind those long lashes. It was the smile of a woman hoping things would finally be different. The honeymoon wasn't just a trip. For Rochelle, it was a fresh start, a reset, a way to reconnect with the man she fell in love with before the fights, before the fear. But for Dwayne, it was something else entirely. In the coming days, those red flags would turn crimson, and paradise would turn to hell. The Cuban sun burned golden over the horizon as Flight BW 456 from Kingston touched down at Jose Marti International Airport in Havana. It was Rochelle's first time outside of Jamaica, and her eyes sparkled as she stepped onto Cuban soil. Dwayne, trailing slightly behind with their luggage, was more reserved. He wasn't as enthusiastic about the trip, but he was determined to enjoy it, for Rochelle's sake, if nothing else. The humidity clung to them as they exited the airport, where a pre-booked black 1950s-style Chevrolet awaited, one of those classic Cuban taxis tourists loved to post on Instagram. Rochelle pulled out her phone immediately. "This is what I'm talking about," she laughed, taking a video clip with a view of the colorful chaos of Havana traffic. The moment, like so many others on that trip, would be saved to her cloud account. One of her final digital footprints. A boutique-style luxury hotel nestled just a few blocks from Havana's historic Plaza Vieja. It was an elegant colonial-era mansion turned modern hotel, arched windows, black and white tiled floors, and a rooftop pool overlooking Havana's colorful rooftops. Rochelle had picked it specifically for its romantic reviews. At check-in, Rochelle spoke to the receptionist in her best Spanish, smiling as she practiced lines she had memorized from an app. Dwayne, disinterested, leaned on the counter with crossed arms, scrolling through his phone. They were escorted to room 208, a spacious suite with a private balcony, a freestanding bathtub, and a king-sized bed dressed in rose petals. On the nightstand was a handwritten welcome note that read, "Bienvenidos, Señor y Señora Barrett. Feliz luna de miel." Rochelle squealed with delight. Dwayne smiled, but his eyes flicked toward the hotel staff member a beat too long as the man helped Rochelle with her suitcase. Later, the bellboy would say something that stuck with investigators. "The husband kept watching me like I was going to steal her. For the first 3 days, it seemed like everything was going well." Rochelle posted photos to her Instagram, a mojito in hand at La Bodeguita del Medio, a slow dance with Dwayne beneath fairy lights at a salsa club, a selfie of them on the Malecon, the sea breeze whipping through her hair. Her captions were cheerful. "Cuba is magical. Cuba woman dancing medium dark skin tone sparkles. #honeymoon love. Married and miles from stress. Just us." But Rochelle's private messages told a slightly different story. To her best friend, she texted, "He's being sweet, but moody. Like really moody. 1 minute he's kissing me, the next he's sulking if I talk to a waiter too long. I feel like I'm tiptoeing." Her friend responded with a playful, "Girl, that's just men on vacation," followed by laughing emojis. Rochelle didn't reply. On the 4th evening, they visited Fábrica de Arte Cubano, a trendy gallery bar hybrid known for live music and modern art. Rochelle, dressed in a red off-the-shoulder dress, turned heads as she walked through the crowds. She noticed Dwayne's jaw tightening, his hand on her lower back getting firmer as men looked in their direction. That night, a mild confrontation turned ugly over dinner. "You like the attention, don't you?" he asked in a low tone as they sat down at a corner table. "Wearing that dress like you're on the market." Rochelle was stunned. "Excuse me? You think I didn't see how you smiled at that bartender?" She paused, trying to keep her voice calm. "I smiled because he gave me water, Dwayne. Are you serious?" His knuckles tapped the table. "Just remember you're a married woman." That night, Rochelle didn't sleep in the bed. She took a blanket and curled up on the couch in the corner of the suite. According to the cleaning staff, she had rearranged the couch cushions into a makeshift bed the next morning. The bed itself looked untouched. Still, in public, she played the part. She wore her ring, posed for pictures, held his hand. But something had shifted. The sparkle in her eyes, so radiant on day 1, had dulled. By day 5, things had become tense enough that even hotel staff took notice. Elena, one of the receptionists, remembered Rochelle stopping by the front desk alone. She asked about places nearby she could walk to by herself. Elena later told Cuban police. She said she needed some fresh air and wanted to be around people. When I offered to call her a cab, she said, "No, I'm just trying to stay out of the room for a while." Dwayne, meanwhile, spent most of the day in the hotel, either in the gym or sitting in the rooftop lounge with a drink in hand, watching guests come and go. Staff recalled he barely smiled. On that same day, Rochelle booked a solo half-day excursion for the following morning, a heritage walking tour of Old Havana. She said Dwayne wasn't into history, so she would go alone. The tour guide's name? Emilio Rivera. He would become the final stranger in Rochelle's life. August 28th. It was their 6th day in Havana. By now, the excitement of honeymoon bliss had faded. The city was still beautiful. Its music still alive, its food still flavorful. But the Barretts were no longer in sync. What had started as subtle tension now boiled beneath the surface. Every conversation felt like it might ignite. Rochelle moved through the day with cautious energy, smiling for photos, but glancing often over her shoulder. Always checking Dwayne's mood like one checks for storm clouds on the horizon. That morning, Rochelle dressed in a white sundress and sandals. She put her braids in a high bun, wore light makeup, and packed only her phone, wallet, and a bottle of water in a small sling bag. Dwayne was still half asleep when she kissed his forehead. "I'll be back by lunch," she said gently. "Just going to walk and take some photos." He mumbled something unintelligible, pulling the sheets over his head. Outside the hotel, Emilio Rivera, her Cuban tour guide, greeted her with a bright smile. Emilio was a 32-year-old Havana native, tall, tan, and fluent in English. He had the charisma of a performer and the warmth of a friend. For hours, he walked Rochelle through the cobbled streets of La Habana Vieja, showing her the city's oldest cathedrals, hidden alley murals, and cigar shops still run by old revolutionaries. They laughed, took selfies, drank guarapo from a roadside stand. Rochelle told him about Jamaica, her wedding, and how she had always dreamed of seeing Havana in person. What she didn't tell him, at least not right away, was that she was running from silence, from tension, from someone she loved but no longer recognized. It was Emilio who later revealed a crucial piece of evidence. During a rest stop at the Calahonda Hamel, a famous Afro-Cuban art alley, Rochelle excused herself to check her phone and sent a message to her best friend back in Jamaica. "With a tour guide. He's cool. Honestly, just nice to breathe again. Dwayne's been weird all week. Real possessive. I just needed a break for a few hours." That text would become a timestamp in the unraveling of her final hours. That evening, Dwayne and Rochelle were supposed to go to El Danzon, a popular rooftop salsa bar known for live music and mojitos. Rochelle arrived first. She was upbeat but guarded. Dwayne arrived 15 minutes later. He was stone-faced. According to security footage, he didn't greet Rochelle with a kiss. He simply sat, ordered a drink, and asked her, "You enjoyed your day?" She nodded. "With him?" he asked, eyebrows raised. Rochelle sighed. "Don't do this here." He leaned in closer. "You walked through a strange city with some Spanish-speaking man, and I'm just supposed to act normal?" Emilio was a licensed tour guide, Dwayne. "You knew I booked the tour yesterday. Didn't know you'd come back smelling like his cologne." Rochelle froze. "What?" The argument escalated rapidly. Witnesses at surrounding tables recalled hearing harsh whispers, then raised voices. "You think I'm stupid?" Dwayne hissed. "You think I don't see how you look at other men?" A tourist couple at the next table caught a brief clip of the confrontation on their phone. In the video, Dwayne is seen pointing a finger at Rochelle, who appears visibly shaken. She picks up her purse and storms off, leaving him behind. The video later went viral under the headline, "Jamaican honeymoon turns hostile in Havana. Tourist couple's fight goes public." Rochelle returned to room 208 alone that night. She took a long shower, ordered a glass of wine from room service. She didn't respond to Dwayne's calls for nearly an hour. When he returned, it was after 1 a.m. What happened next is pieced together through hotel surveillance, keycard data, and the statements of hotel staff. At 1:09 a.m., Dwayne is seen entering the hotel lobby alone, wearing a white t-shirt and jeans. At 1:11 a.m., his keycard is logged at the door of room 208. No one leaves that room again until 2:37 a.m. During that 86-minute window, something terrible occurred. Guests in the adjacent rooms reported muffled yelling. One heard a woman shout, "Just let me go!" Another heard a loud crash. Likely the glass vase later found shattered near the balcony door. But no one called hotel security. Because tourists fight all the time. People argue. And what's a little shouting behind closed doors on a honeymoon? It was only in the morning that the screaming stopped. His name was Emilio Rivera, a Havana-born, street-smart local who'd made a modest living as a freelance tour guide and translator. He wasn't officially employed by a government agency but had built a reputation among travelers for being charming, knowledgeable, and, most importantly, safe. His TripAdvisor reviews were glowing. Tourists described him as warm, fun, and incredibly respectful. Until now, he'd never been connected to anything remotely criminal. Emilio met Rochelle Barrett on August 28, 2024, at 8:15 a.m. She stood under a tree wearing a white sundress, sunglasses, and a brown crossbody bag. She looked out of place and yet completely comfortable, like someone craving adventure but quietly hoping for peace. Emilio later told police. She smiled when I walked up and said, "Thank you for not canceling." I joked, "How could I cancel on a smile like that?" She laughed, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. According to Emilio's testimony, Rochelle was friendly but cautious. She answered questions politely, asked about Havana's history, took photos of murals and street musicians. But during coffee at Cafe O'Reilly, she opened up. She told me it was her honeymoon, Emilio said in his official statement, that her husband stayed back at the hotel. She said he didn't want to come, that he was in a bad mood. At first, Emilio didn't press her. He was a guide, not a therapist. But by the time they reached Plaza Vieja, Rochelle seemed more open. She confided in him softly, "I love him, but sometimes I feel like I'm not breathing anymore. Like, I can't even smile at someone without getting punished for it later." Emilio didn't touch her, didn't flirt. He offered sympathy, a listening ear, and a bit of humor. "Cuban men are jealous too," he joked. "But they don't marry the women they don't trust." Rochelle smiled at that. It would be one of the last genuine smiles of her life. Later investigations would reveal that Rochelle messaged Emilio that same evening, hours before her death. The message was short but telling. 8:42 p.m. "Hey, thanks for today. You have no idea how much I needed that air. Hope your offer still stands if I need to talk." 8:46 p.m. Emilio responded, "Always. Just say where." It was innocent. At least that's what it looked like. But to Dwayne, who had gone through Rochelle's phone when she was in the bathroom that night, it was betrayal. Proof. In his mind, the tour wasn't a tour. It was a date. The message wasn't a thank you. It was a setup. That night, Rochelle tried to explain. They argued again. According to the coroner's timeline and the angle of bruising around her wrist and upper arm, it became physical for the first time in their marriage. Her body showed signs of struggle. Defensive wounds on her hands. Scratches on her chest. She had fought back. But she lost. Later forensic analysis found tiny splinters of mirror glass embedded in Rochelle's scalp, suggesting her head was slammed backward into the bathroom mirror, shattering it. She wasn't killed instantly. That detail would later haunt detectives. Instead, her cause of death was manual strangulation, followed by drowning in the hotel bathtub. The autopsy revealed submersion injuries to her lungs and water in her stomach, indicating she was alive, barely, when her head was forced beneath the water. The timeline became clearer. 1:11 a.m. Dwayne enters the hotel room. Sometime between 1:15 and 2:15 a.m., the murder occurs. At 2:37 a.m., Dwayne Barrett slipped out of Hotel Palacio de los Jardines through the staff exit, wiping his fingerprints off the door with a towel. He carried a small backpack, Rochelle's phone in his pocket, and wore a stolen baseball cap. Security footage captured it all. Hours later, at 7:45 a.m., housekeeper Ana Maria Ortega entered room 208. What she found would haunt her forever. The water was still in the tub, she told police. Her eyes were open, blood on the towel rack. No wedding ring. The room was in disarray. Broken mirror, bloodied towels in the trash, a shattered wine glass. Rochelle's phone was found in the toilet tank. Most damning, Dwayne's fingerprints on the tub and her blood under his nails. Earlier that night, Rochelle had texted her sister at 1:08 a.m. "He just came in. I'll talk to you in the morning." She never did. Guests reported a loud argument in English. One recalled Rochelle yelling, "I'm not afraid of you," before a crash. Autopsy revealed she had been struck, strangled, and drowned. She fought back. Dwayne had scratches on his neck and arms. By the time authorities arrived, Dwayne was long gone. August 28, 2024. Under a rare blood moon, what should have been a honeymoon turned into a homicide. Dwayne tried to stage a robbery. He took Rochelle's ring, phone, and passport. He changed clothes, wiped surfaces, and unplugged the room phone. By morning, the room was a crime scene. Rochelle was dead, and Dwayne had vanished into Havana. A manhunt began. 2 days later, Dwayne was found hiding in a shed near Matanzas. He had Rochelle's ring, phone, and a note. Asterisk. She betrayed me. I lost control. Asterisk. He was arrested, charged, and later convicted of second-degree murder. The court rejected his claim that Rochelle slipped during a fight. Evidence proved otherwise. He was sentenced to 25 years in a Cuban prison, no parole. Rochelle's body was returned to Jamaica. Her white casket was placed beside her wedding photo in the same church where she had said, "I do," just weeks earlier. Her sister, Maya, said through tears, "She left as a bride and came back in a box.